And we are back for another OFT live chat, but this time I'm joined as the man himself, who's a bit self-conscious about his situation that he's in. Noel, why are you self-conscious about your situation right now?
First of all, it's about time we got rid of that Brendan Dorman and Jason guy from MMA Point, and you get me back on the show. I'm Robin. I'm getting back into live chats. I'm in a hidden location. It's a green screen studio to make it look like I'm in a 13-year-old boy's bedroom.
But it's
in
not.
my son's.
It's an actual studio.
It's an actual studio. It's not a 13-year-old bedroom. It's my son's bedroom I'm currently in. He's away, and he's moved all his computer in here. So welcome, people who like looking at 13-year-old boys' bedrooms.
Creepiest intro we've ever done, but fair enough. I'm Rob, as I think I might have said. If not, that's who I am. There's a lot of stuff we can talk about today. We'll keep it open. Hopefully there's some people in the chat that can give us some questions and we'll try to get through them. There might be another live chat this week, but just subscribe now anyway, and you never know, you might find another live chat later on. Hopefully we'll be back in studio next week. We'll see what the crack is. We'll let everybody know. So check us out on Facebook and Twitter, and that's where we'll put it. Noel, a few things happened this week. The first thing I want to talk about though is the big reaction to a certain Irishman's loss last week, James Gallagher.
Yeah.
He was on MMA Fighting, I believe, or was it Ariel show? Ariel show, and you said he came off pretty well, but a lot of people had problems with his attitude going into that fight, and then obviously a lot of people took a bit of enjoyment from his loss. What's your whole thoughts on the situation?
First of all, it's weird having you introduce things. This is a new one. But yeah, look, I thought, James. I've been watching James. I've called a lot of his fights. As a young amateur coming up, I actually announced him in his pro debut in Cage Kings. So I know James, and I've watched James a long time. That's James' bravado. That's how he fights. It's how he builds his fights. It's how he tries to play the mental mind game. People will always say, "Oh, he's trying to do a Conor." Obviously, James was a young guy. I think he moved down to SPG. I think when he was 15. I could be incorrect on that. I think it was 15. So yeah, no harm in replicating. Two-time world champion. That's not the worst thing in the world to do. Four-time world champion, two simultaneous with the UFC, and then obviously cage contender or cage warriors. Even though. But yeah, it's like, look, James, that's the way he builds that is the way he's built his career. He trash talks, he does that. It's a mental warfare. The thing with that is you're going to rub people the wrong way when you do that. And James has done that right through the amateur scene here in Ireland, and now at the biggest stage for him, Bellator. It's what he's done. It's how he comes into fights. And the thing is, when you build yourself up that high, you're going to have people who will revel in your downfall. So I wasn't surprised by his with how people criticised him. That didn't surprise me at all. I think a lot of it is sort of unwarranted. I know, Rob, you shared a few things. The likes of Karl Moore posted some stuff up and stuff about it, but the social media reaction to it was insane.
Yeah, it was mad, but it is expected though. It's not like it wasn't expected, and I'm sure he was expecting it himself. I didn't see his interview afterwards. I thought his post was, it was a bit kind of unbalanced or something. He was kind of going one way with it, and then he went a different way with it. And I know he wasn't really thinking it out, but I suppose when you're at the kind of level that he is at now and the amount of eyes that are on him, maybe the post could have been a little bit more directed in a certain way. But it wasn't not expected, what happened. Not the knockout, but I mean just the reaction to him losing, considering.
I think his reaction as well, Rob, is he mentions a good few times. It almost brought me back to when I was away in Thailand, and you and Carl were talking about who he was talking about, and he's kept going. He's 19.
Sage Norco.
So that's something that James called out, that he's 21 a good bit in his interview, and I think you have to take that into consideration. If you look how quick his Instagram post was regarding the fight, it was in a matter of hours.
Yeah.
Might have been in a couple of hours. So he just got knocked out for the first time in his life and the first time in his career. So at that time, his head might have been a little scrambled. And I think you've seen, my point with being 21, I think you've seen a little bit of 21 in his post. It was a little immature. Some of the stuff he said, like he'd gone on, he got on the defensive, and rightly so, because like he's a young guy. You expect him to bite back a little bit. But like a lot of people, things he said, I'm an animal, I'm a fucking animal. He got lucky with what he caught me. He got lucky with what he caught me is factually incorrect, because it was a beautiful setup with the lead left hand to follow up with a beautiful right hand, and then Ricky's shot selection after that was absolutely phenomenal, even threw in some sweet chin music. So it was a phenomenal performance by Ricky, and like credit to him. But James then, speaking on Ariel Helwani, I was listening to it today. I thought he came across a lot clashier. He gave his credit to Ricky, and he said, people are thinking this is going to humble me. That's not going to fucking humble me. This is the type of character I am. So he accepted it well, and I think a lot of people writing him off, is a little flawed, and in some ways, I think the pedestal James has got himself up to the level he's fighting at in such a short span of his pro career. He obviously made his debut. Was on a regional show here called Cage Kings down in Cork, but then he signed with Bama, so straight away he was up into Bama levels, and Bellator snapped him up. James was actually on a very early edition, the very first ever video recorded episode of obviously Fight Talk, and James was on talking about that then. So you're talking about a really young guy. So people who are writing him off, they need to be realistic here. This is a young guy who's fighting some of the best people in the world already. At that was James' 8th competition. He's moved to 7-1, I think I'm right in saying. So so credit to him. He's doing amazing things. I look forward to seeing. I always say it, if you listen to our show, it's almost like me saying Max Holloway starts slow like a Muay Thai fighter. I tend to say with young people, when they go away, they come back looking 100% different. They look like a different fighter. James spoke about that him and John Kavanagh have already outlined a training program, what to work on, how to work on it, and what to do to adjust to them errors. So he's freely aware he made errors. He's not making any excuses in any of the interview. He owns the interview. He said he's having the time of his life. He trained the best he could do. Everything was in the right position. No excuses. Credit to Ricky. So I think that should be spoke about more on social media, about how level-headed this young guy is. He's not quite a world champion yet, but he certainly has that world champion mind frame.
Yeah. There's a couple of questions and comments in the chat, and as I always say each week, the whole idea of these live chats, this isn't the main show where we kind of just ramble on about the stuff we want to talk about. We want to talk about the stuff that you want to talk about, but there is some regarding this topic. But if you can, give this a share on Twitter and Facebook and even MMA Reddit, wherever you can. But there was one comment there from Dan from Oregon, and it kind of got me thinking as well of all respect. He basically said all respect to Ricky Bandages. Huge victory for him on a big stage. It even made it on the Sports Center. I did actually see that. It was on Sports Center, which is that's huge for MMA in general, but especially for Bellator. You don't see Bellator on Sports Center that much. That's a huge show in the States. But he said the best part of it was his beg me Twitter after James asked for a rematch in Dublin. I didn't see that, but that's pretty funny. That's a good comeback. Yeah.
And that's why as well, it was cleared up as well, because I was wondering as they were squaring off, James was like this, and he was shouting 10-2, 10-2. And I was only seeing the highlights, and I'm going, am I missing some sort of gangster young person talk here? What's 10-2 mean? But it was just, he's going, you're moving to 10-2, 10-2. Gotcha. So when Ricky won the fight, he stood over him and was shouting 11-1, 11. So that's what was being shouted down on him, which I thought was a pretty badass comeback.
That is a badass comeback.
It does throw a spanner in the works for Bellator, because I would imagine if the night had gone in Gallagher's favour, we would have had a world title here for James in Dublin. So interesting to see what they do. It also spoils a little bit the AJ McKee fight. I know he'd moved down to Bantam, but there was a few things of it. But look, I think you're foolish if you're going to write off young James Gallagher. He's an extremely talented fighter. Worth noting as well, like out there, I was doing a show at the weekend, and I was sitting chatting to Ilias Blade, and I don't know if any of our listeners know who Ilias Blade is, but Ilias is one of the most devastating K1 fighters. Fights out. He's Moroccan. He's fighting the likes of Infusion and stuff like that. He's an absolute fucking killer, and he's training out in SBG right now. So you look at the likes of the Keen Cowley for Muay Thai, and just the serious strikers they've got out there. Anyway, you look at like Brad Katona, who was just a tough champion. Do you know what I mean? We could go on with the quality of fighters that are in SBG at the moment. So if James has gone in there and identified a weakness in his game, you know, I'm very interested to see what he does. Coming back from that, I just think it's an exciting time. Coming out, a loss is obviously hard to take, but he, as he said, he's literally taking it on the chin. And I was very impressed with him. If you haven't checked out Ariel, turn off this right now and go. No, don't. Stay with us and then watch it after. But yeah, I was very impressed with him. But yeah, Ricky Bandages, as I was calling him on the show.
How do you pronounce it?
I'm going bandages.
Somebody write it phonetically in the chat, and we'll get this down. Yeah,
for him, huge.
Huge.
Just because like you're talking about like Bellator had invested so much into James Gallagher as building his profile. Like he was one fight away from a title shot, and then Ricky comes in and ends that and does it in a emphatic,
look great too,
fashion. Yeah.
But it could be good for James, you know. Not everybody loses usually in this sport. There's not many fighters who don't lose, so it's not the end of the world. Yes, you know, you could come back from that. Dan from Oregon said, "What's up, Noel? I heard you doing previews for Brave 14. Great stuff. Brave might be my new favourite promotion." No, you are doing some previews and some stuff for Brave. What's the crack with that?
The 18th of August, Tangier, Morocco. Yeah, I had to do my Hollywood movie voice and not sound like a Dublin chav.
As you normally do.
Banda has. Somebody's writing in.
That sounds better than bandages.
Bandages. Mind you, you could call himself Ricky Bandages Bandahas. That'd be fantastic. Yeah, I'm doing a little bit of work. As people know who watch Brave, I worked on Brave Northern Ireland, Belfast Brave 13. So yeah, Brave have reached out to me and we want to work together. So they have me doing different stuff, the likes of a couple of promo things and then the likes of countdown shows, anything like that. And it won't be too long before I'm back in commentary as well.
That's great stuff. Looking forward to seeing all that. The writing Irish MMA vlogs, true or false? The grassroots Irish MMA scene has never been better.
That's a tough idea because I will.
Depends what way you go with the question, isn't it? For me,
because for me, like I was at an Irish MMA scene, grassroots MMA scene. I was announcing and commentating the show at the weekend, Cage Legacy 9. Yes and no. Could be the answer. There's a lot of fighters fighting in Ireland, but if you look at, like, it depends. It's almost, to use a football analogy that anyone from the States listening to me here won't get, but it's almost like Chris Fields, Conor McGregor, Ash Bash, Paddy Hewlin. They're the Busby babes of Irish MMA, if you like. They're like the founding fathers, for an American analogy. But yeah, there's a lot coming through. The problem for me, I think, is there's not as many amateur shows as there used to be in South or the Republic of Ireland. Yeah. So I'd like to see more shows, and that's coming to fruition. I know Roy Ocean Fighting Championships there said they're making a comeback. I know Keith Cooper is doing a show. I think it's called Battlegrounds. I'm not 100%. I could be absolutely shot for that because I'm actually doing it. But like, again, he only asked me, I can't remember the name. Yeah. But you know, we have Battle Zone. We used to have Man at War. You know what I mean? We used to be Rumble and Rush. There used to be a lot more shows. So a lot of credit has to go out to Dec Kenna and Darren Sonic for what they're doing with Cage Legacy. You know, you had their 9th show at the weekend. Their 10th show was on the same day, Khabib Conor. So that's awesome. If you're an MMA fan, go see a local show, then go home and watch, you know what I mean, Conor and Khabib go at it. But yeah, Irish MMA is in a very strong place. We're representing ourselves very, very well in all the IMAFs. If you look at the IMAFs, we tend to get a couple of fighters medaling at least. But we're going over representing ourselves really well. there's a little bit of true and a little bit of false in it, I think, though. I think we have the next breed. Like, I'm very excited about a lot of fighters, because if you look at certain fighters like the likes of Reece McKee, the likes of, them sort of like Dylan Tuke was coming through. That was a great push of fighters, and now there's another great push of fighters like the likes of Ian Gary that was on the show just not too long ago. So there is plenty of talent coming through. Like a guy fighting at the weekend, Carl Reardon, a light heavyweight, man, he just knocks people out for fun. So there's plenty of talent there. I don't think it's in a better place than it was, let's say, 5 years ago, but I don't think it's in a worse place than it was 5 years ago, if you know what I mean. I'd just like to see more shows down south.
It's a weird one. There's less shows, which is a bad thing for just in general. But the shows that are being put on, I suppose, because there's less shows, they're a little bit more stacked at times, and and they're probably better structured with the new kind of regulations and stuff. There's less. I don't know. It just seems a little bit cleaner or something. There's not really that guy right now for me that I can look at and say, oh, this guy's going to be the next big thing, like we had with Conor McGregor. But there's a lot more guys who you say they'll probably make it to UFC level. Do you know what I mean? There's probably more of them, but not the one guy who's like, oh, he's going to be the superstar. So it's kind of a weird one. Like it's a bit of both, I think. Yeah,
I think there's plenty of potential, and like again, there's like young kids even coming up now as well. The huge potential, but that's hard. Like once there's the platform for these young fighters, like I think the gyms are getting better, if that makes sense. There's not as many scattered gyms. I think the gyms and the level of coaching in Ireland now as well, because you're getting sort of fighters who fought and retired. Like if you look, for example, I know it's the really high level of it, but like you look at Coach Owen Roddy. Do you know what I mean? Like, how good of a coach is Owen Roddy? Like, Owen Roddy was an absolute fucking badass fighter.
Savage.
Do you know what I mean? So it's almost like Roddy, when MMA in Ireland, when the boom of MMA in Ireland, where, you know what I mean, your man Dan knew about it. Owen was before that. So he just missed out on that. But what he brings now is this high level coaching. You only have to sit at any regional show. And that's what's incredible about Irish MMA. And I don't know how much people in the comments might have to say this in the States or stuff, but like, how likely are you to see, Greg Jackson or, whoever, any coach, whatever coach, right? Ray Longo, whoever, right? Any coach all over the States. How likely are you there to see them coaching their amateur fighters? I'm not 100% sure. I know I have seen it, where I have seen the likes of Ray Longo as an example, looking for a fighter and looking for a fight and all that sort of stuff. But like, when you go to an Irish regional show, like if you have like SBG on it, like unless John Kavanagh is away coaching Conor or away coaching someone, John Kavanagh will be in the corner of a young guy making his MMA debut. Owen Roddy will be in the corner of his fighter. You'll have Paddy Houlihan cornering all his Dublin 24 fighters. You know what I mean? You've Liam Shannon from up north. You know what I mean? You've so many of really strong Irish coaching that will be there looking after the grassroots fighters. I'm rambling a little bit about Irish MMA because I am passionate about it, but I think like it's in a better place, coaching, training, gym wise. But it's we still, no matter what, if we were in 1900, we'd still have badass fighters, because us Irish just love to throw our bones at each other. Yeah,
that sounds a little bit weird. I completely agree with what you said. To be honest, I agree with all of it. Doc_Holiday said, speak to the matchup of Darren Till versus Tyron Woodley. How do you see that going?
I was only talking about this the other day, and a fellow was like, surely, you just see like Woodley beating Till, don't you? And I was like, I think people are saying, comparing it to the Woodley, they're doing MMA match up, and they're comparing it with the Woodley Wonderboy fight. But like, as much as the Wonderboy Till fight was a bit of a stalemate because it was quite tactical, I just think I think Till's going to be a lot more aggressive and really come after Woodley. I really think Till's going to put it on him, and he's not going to try and etch out a squeaky clean decision win here. I think Darren Till is really going to go in and try and pick apart Tyron Woodley. So tie kill is something you give to make someone dozy, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a Colby Covington joke.
Yeah, so you know what, I sort of fancy Till.
Well, do you know what? Yeah. Do you know what? Actually, I rewatched Till versus Wonderboy the other day, and I don't think we gave Till enough credit. I don't think anybody gave Till enough credit for that fight, because if you watch that fight and look how it played out, he had Wonderboy on the back foot for that whole fight pretty much. He had him up against the cage where he wanted him, which is impressive. Like, against probably arguably the best striker in that division. You know, you could probably argue that Till is now, but at the time people would have said Wonderboy is the best striker in that division, no doubt, I guess. And I don't think we really gave Till the credit that he probably deserved for what he did in that fight. Yeah, it wasn't the most impressive, like, it wasn't a finish, but he did drop him at one point, and he pretty much he had his own game plan working in that fight. I think that's impressive, and I don't know who I'm gonna pick, but yeah, I wouldn't count out Till at all.
Yeah, and in some ways, people look at some fights and they go, "Oh, you know, he didn't really finish anyone before Cowboy and stuff like that." And it's mad. I love the MMA community; it's brilliant. Even what I'm saying now, you're gonna have somebody going, "Shut the fuck up" in your kid's bedroom with a United jersey on you. Do you know what I mean? But it's people forget just how devastating people can be as well. Like, 100% people have forgotten what Conor McGregor can do in a cage, you know, like, just because of the antics. But like, Darren Till, man, he's fucking huge, you know what I mean? Who tweeted today? I can't remember. It was Usman tweeted about Till. He reminds him of Anthony Rumble Johnson just trying to cut and make 170, you know, just face it, you're too big, go up or something, you know. But like, I don't know, did you watch Till walking around with Jim Edwards?
No, I haven't watched it yet. I will though.
Yeah, I wall build there.
What?
I'm just looking at someone going on about just Master Bates, great stuff. In the comments, I just think Till's going to be aggressive. So I'm not actually picking Till, but I can see him winning the fight.
Straight on the fence there, sitting on that fence.
Oh yeah.
What's your thoughts on the UFC, apparently, according to Usman, lining Usman up as like a replacement in case Till or Woodley fall out? He's basically in training camp just in case that fight falls through. What's your thoughts on not just that situation, but that situation as a whole, having like a backup for a title fight?
Yeah, you've seen it a few times. Remember one of the cards, Jacare just came in and weighed in, and everyone was, what the fuck's Jacare doing here? So he came in and weighed in, made weight, and then, you know, bowed out the door like a thief in the night. But it's Kevin Lee was talking to good old Jerry McCarthy, our mate Jerry from KO Media there over in Brave, and he was saying, like, he's ready. Like, if Khabib or Conor falls away, like, he's ready to go. You know, he's not hanging around. He's waiting. Now he's matched with Pettis on the same card, isn't he? So he was basically saying, like, I'm either going to fight Conor or Khabib because one of them falls out injured, or I'm going to beat the shit out of Showtime Pettis and make the lads backstage see that and go, holy shit. So yeah, I think it's something that you mightn't be fully aware of, but it definitely goes on. Like, it's a contingency plan. Sure, you look at it look at the amount of cards that have fallen through last minute. Like, look at this shit show that happened with Khabib eventually fighting Quinte.
No, I completely get it. It's a smart contingency plan, but it's still a bit weird to me looking at it, because, like, imagine Floyd Mayweather versus Conor McGregor, just say that fight that happened, and you had like Canelo weighing in just in case one of them fell out. Like, you'd never see that. You'd never see that. It's just an MMA. It's one of them weird things in MMA. I don't know if it's because injuries are so prevalent in MMA and are not as prevalent in boxing, at least injuries close to the fight. But it still is a little bit weird, but I completely get it, and I'd like to see that fight anyway. But you know, it's still a bit of a weird one to me.
Come on, those people saying stuff in the comments. Get your comments there. What are people saying?
I'm looking at them. Daniel Mulvaheady, great work, guys. Thanks, Dan.
Dan.
Raphael Schaefer. Oh, we got a celebrity in the chat. I guess he's talking about Dan. Schaefer. Noel, apart from the mind frame, just fighting, do you think Gallagher has championship potential even before the bandages fight? Bandages.
Hayes.
Banny Hayes. He never looked that good to me.
Ooh, like, I think the biggest weakness in James's toolbox is his striking. Like, I think, I really mean this. I think when you put James in there with most guys on the mat, he finishes them. Like, his jiu-jitsu was unbelievable. And I don't think his striking's not weak. It's just not world class. You know that way? So, like, the stance he has where he was there, he needed to cut, but like he was badly rocked. He said it on aerial as well that he can't remember anything after that right hand. So he can't remember the side kick. He can't remember falling to the ground. He can't remember shooting in for the takedown. So to judge him on what he done after that, he's clearly hurt. He's clearly rocked. He's almost out of the fight. He just hasn't been actually finished at that stage. But like, there's no, it's not. You'd be an idiot if he said he doesn't need to work on the striking. For that level, he has to. He does have to work on the striking, but his striking has significantly improved. Like, he was utilising nice leg kicks and stuff in previous fights, and he is getting better. But I don't think there's any harm in a young, or it doesn't matter if you're old either, having confidence in what you can do. Imagine if we all lived our life thinking, I can achieve whatever I want to achieve. Yes, it'd be a nation full of pricks, but within reason. Like, if you're like, right, you have a job interview, I want to get this job. You talk yourself into, I'm going to get this job. You do all the preparation for it. You go to the job interview, you hit a home run. Sometimes you don't always get the job, but that doesn't mean you haven't done the work leading up to it. So to be a fighter, it's such a lonely, vulnerable sport, and because no matter how many people you train with, when the cage door gets closed, it's you and you only. So I think for a fighter to have confidence, I think it's perfect sense. So what I mean by his championship mind frame is he believes in himself. Will he reach that goal? I don't know, but that's what I mean by having the mindset of a champion. He believes thoroughly in himself, and if you don't believe in yourself, you're not going to become a champion. Like, when have you ever met any fighter who was like, look, I turn up and see what happens, and they go on to become a world champion? Doesn't happen all that often. So you have to have the mindset and belief. So
fighters are very what's the word? They have to be like if you like in any other sport. Like, come across, say, looking at football or soccer, it's for the American fans. Look at the likes of, say, Ronaldo or Ibrahimovic, and when they come out and they say, "I'm the best, I'm better than everybody," you look at them and you're like, "Ugh, that's a bit narcissistic. What the fuck?" But in fighting, that happens all the time, and it's just like, that's just normal. It's normal, as Anderson would say. It's like fighters have to be that guy. They have to be the guy who thinks they're the best. So it's like, they're just kind of narcissistic in a way, and not in a bad way. It's just they have to be. If you're going to get into a cage with somebody and fight, you have to be really, really full of yourself in a way. It's just, it is what it is. We
better answer Masterbase. He's getting very upset that we're not saying nothing to his replies.
Where is he? I can't see him.
He said, I hate Dublin. Junkies hang around the Lewis stops and beg for change. They're the salt of the earth. They're good Dublin people. And you see, they're fucked now because if you're watching Tony McGregor, not many Dubs carry coinage anymore. So they are none too plussed while they're standing waiting on the Lewis. Yeah,
it's a beautiful city of, in certain situations, in certain places.
Every city, unfortunately, has that. So,
where are you from, Master Bates?
Yeah, so he says, I'm putting on money on Khabib because Conor's gas tank is awful. We've seen it in Conor's fights where it's like sort of halfway through coming to the latter stage of round 2 and 3 against Diaz. He certainly tanked and gassed. Like, he was starting to look like in round 3 when. It was the end of round 2, start of round 3. You were like, oh my God, it's happening again. You know what I mean? Conor picked Nate apart in round 1 of both fights, and it looked like round 2, both 1 and 2. You were like, Jesus, it's happening again here. He is gassing out again. But
got a second wind.
Yeah, got a second win, won the fight. So I know a lot of people, today is actually the 2-year anniversary, in Ireland anyway, the early hours in Ireland, the 21st of Diaz and Conor. So hard to believe it was 2 years ago, but I've watched it back, and I can be fairly unbiased when I watch Conor, as much as, I'll freely admit I'm a big Conor McGregor fan. We obviously, the Irish, get behind Conor McGregor when he fights, but you get people, I look at it, I just see Conor winning the fight. I know a lot of people think Nate won it, and the UFC, the tinfoil hats come out that the UFC wanted Conor to win, hence why he won. But I don't think so. I thought Conor done enough in that fight. I'd like to see a trilogy. In regards to Khabib, I sort of agree with Firas Zahabi. Did you hear what Firas was saying? And I think it was on Bloody Elbow.
Was it that the fight's going to be one-sided?
Yeah, it could be one-sided, but on either side of
that. Yeah, makes sense.
Like that's how I like when I picture the fight. I can see like Conor knocking Khabib out. I can see that as a possibility, but I can also see Khabib taking Conor down and like beating the brakes off him on the mat. Like you can see both outcomes. That's what Khabib does, and that's what Conor can do as well. So I agree with that. You know, we're going to dive more into it. Obviously, when Brendan is on, we're going to really delve deep into Khabib and Conor. But yeah, I don't think you're wrong about the gas tank thing. I think saying it's awful is probably wrong without knowing much about you, Master Bates. I reckon Conor could outlast you in most things, unless you're some sort of triathlon athlete, and you're just going to prove me wrong with that. But yeah, he has gassed in his fights, and you can't deny that.
Yeah, he's definitely gassed, and that's something that he has to fix. He does have this program thing. I don't know if it's going to help him, but we'll see. But I think Firas Zahabi's kind of point on that, I think that's probably accurate. Like I can't see the fight
apparently
being.
The stream has dropped here. Of some of the lads' comments are saying the stream has dropped.
Stream has dropped. Let me just check it. Looks good on my end. Weird. I'll try to fix it. But yeah, I think Zahabi's point is correct for me. I don't see it being a fight where it's... I don't see it being a Nate Diaz versus Conor McGregor type fight. I see it being more so, you know, lopsided on either way, and that doesn't necessarily mean if they fought again that it would be lopsided that way again. It's just one of them fights where the way the styles match up, somebody could win fairly handily, even though it's not really a handy win, if that makes sense.
It looks, brother, this has stopped. But it looks like anyone comment, is the stream still running for anyone in the comments there? Just we've dropped on views as well there, not like to
yeah,
stream back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. It's back, is it? Right.
Yeah, it seems to be.
The joy of the internet.
Okay. Sorry about that, lads.
Cool.
And just when Master Base was cheering us for having 22 watching, we have 11 now. So yeah, well, that's what happens. Sorry, so yeah, we were talking about Khabib. Why are you moving on to next there? Because we're obviously gonna cover Conor and Khabib loads in the build up to that as well. In regards to, I suppose it's the anniversary of Conor and Diaz. So you know the whole gas tank reference, and it's something that like I've rewatched that fight back a lot just because it was a cracking fight. It's like I don't agree that it was the best fight in history. Can we all agree on that? It wasn't the best fight in UFC history.
Nah, disagree with that.
Yeah, because you disagree, as in you think it was the best fight in
history? I don't think it was. There's been plenty of fights that were much better, like Rory McDonald, Robbie Lawler comes to mind straight away. There's been plenty of fights better, but it was a great fight. Yeah, Jones, Gus, yeah.
Shogun, Endo. Yeah, there's loads. But like, so like the anniversary of it, I think like a phenomenal fight. I couldn't believe it though, and I was saying it was 2 years. But when you think about it, like it's 2 years, and they've both between them they've only had one MMA fight.
It's insane, isn't it?
That's crazy. Jesus. Like between them, and for all the shit he gets, it was Conor who had the MMA fight. So it's absolutely mental to think that. Now, of course, we have Diaz back fighting Dustin Poirier, and Conor obviously is back fighting Khabib. So yeah, it's mad, but it's a weird one because the trilogy. I see Robin Black was saying he reckons if Conor loses to Khabib, he retires. Do you think that carries any weight?
I don't think so, but you never know. I just don't think so. I think there's still plenty of fights there for him, and Conor is that type of guy who, even though he's really outspoken about, you know, being the best or whatever, he doesn't really lose too much in a loss. And of course he would lose quite a bit in this loss because, you know, he left MMA, went to boxing, lost, and then comes back and loses again. But I don't think so. I think it's a bit of a stretch to say that. I don't know if somebody has said it to him, but I think it's a bit of a stretch to say that, because if he loses, he could still do that Nate Diaz fight, and you know that's a fight that he clearly wants. So I don't see him retiring. What about you?
The thing I think with the fights with Khabib and Conor and then Nate and Dustin is that it's a 4-way bracket that there's only probably one scenario that they don't fight each other again is if Conor beats Khabib. I can see that's probably not Conor fighting Nate because GSP. Now I know Dana White has said, "Oh no," but you telling me GSP, Conor McGregor, if Conor was to beat Khabib, it doesn't happen.
Dana would love that.
Yeah, 100% happens. It would be a huge fight. Like I personally, my personal opinion is I think George St. Pierre should just like go to fuck off. Like he's an absolute legend, but I don't think he should have to come back and fight in another weight class that he's never fought in, and get a shot at the title. I just think it's insane. But like if Conor was to lose to Khabib, right? I think he fights Diaz no matter what the result is of Diaz. So the only outcome where I don't see Conor fighting Diaz is if Conor actually wins the fight against. Like if Diaz beats Poirier, they can set it up. If Conor or if Poirier beats Nate, they can still fight it up or set it up the trilogy. I'd like to see the trilogy because it's one on one, and like a lot of Diaz, the people who are on Team Diaz. Feel that Diaz won the second fight as well. So I'd be interested to see if Diaz approach it differently. Would he try to take Conor down?
I don't see the argument for not wanting the trilogy. And if somebody in the chat does have an argument for not wanting the trilogy, let us know. I get the argument for not wanting the trilogy now coming up because I don't either. But I mean, in the future, if it lines up, and there's many ways, as we said, for this fight to line up. If both of them win, it lines up. If both of them lose, it lines up. If one loses, one wins, it still probably lines up, especially if it's Conor that loses. So, like, I don't see many reasons, because the two fights were really good, and they beat him in the first one very impressively. The second one was a great fight, and Conor won by decision. So I don't see any reason. Like, it wasn't a blowout either way. The first fight, although it was a finish, it wasn't really a blowout. It was a great finish by Nate. But I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it.
Again, in the comments, we'll just say it. Like I don't. If Conor wins, I don't see it happen. I just see them going for the big fight. And like, if you look at Conor, apart from his I would say the Dennis Seaver fight, if you look at Conor, each fight is almost like a stepping stone to a bigger thing, and that's how sort of like the madness that was the Mayweather fight happened. Do you know what I mean? He just became the two-weight champion, whatever, and then he goes on and fights Floyd Mayweather. So. Yeah, but it's a weird one, because Conor turned. Did he turn 30? Was his last birthday? Did he turn 30 or 29?
30, I think.
Yeah, so he always said as well, if you go back and look at him, it's get in, make your money, and get out. So like, he's obviously going to be on huge money. I suppose that money is hard to turn down, no matter how much you have in the bank account. If he's making the big money that he'd be making on pay-per-view points, etc. So. I don't see Conor fighting for that much longer anyway.
Not too much longer, but I don't think straight. I think he'll have another one after this.
Yeah, I think at best we're going to see him 2 times.
It's crazy. That's mad. Like, it'd be kind of sad though if that is the case. He is great to watch, and he does kind of bring a buzz around the sport. But what's your thoughts on Brock Lesnar? Did you see that picture?
I sure did.
Yeah, so a lot of people think that Brock Lesnar from the last, I suppose, year, and then since he's re-entered the USADA testing pool, that his body has changed quite a bit. I did set up a thing here where I should be able to show the picture on the chat. If it breaks the chat or it breaks the live stream, I do apologise in advance. But we're going to give it a go, and hopefully we can see it. But if anybody else hasn't seen it, go check it out on our Facebook page. There's a picture of Brock Lesnar side by side, pre-USADA, post-USADA. He looks a little bit different.
What was the date range in that?
I don't know. I really don't know.
Do you know what it looks like? The picture on the left will probably come up the opposite way around now if you do tag it. The picture on the left looks like what you look like when you know you're going on holidays in 6 months' time and you put loads of training in. And then the picture on the right looks like what you've gone to when your holiday was an all-inclusive holiday and actually coming back on the last day. You know what I mean? You're still in the beach shorts. Yeah. You're still in the beach shorts you bought, but they're muffin topping you a bit.
A bit of muffin top, but I also can see that he's clearly wearing some kind of fake tan, or else at least he tanned himself in one of them, because he looks a little bit orange, and that does help with the physique, I think.
This is very fancy, Rob.
So you can see it, can you?
Yeah, you can do. Yeah,
the stream hasn't broken. Excellent stuff.
Well, look, the way I look at it is, if I'd like to be out of shape the way Brock is out of shape there.
Yeah, he's not out of shape. Yeah, but do you think that he does look different? And if so, do you think are you skeptical? I suppose.
Am I skeptical of the freak unit that is Brock Lesnar?
Are you skeptical of
the man that when he pisses transition in a cup, it burns a hole in the bottom of the cup? Yeah, like, look, he's been caught. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not like we're not, I won't dance around the subject. Like, he's fucking pissed hot. Mark Hunt has a fucking lawsuit against him. You know what I mean? He has been tested positive. He's failed these tests. If he's coming back in the cycle, he does look like somebody who's cycling off it. Look, you know how I feel about it. The Lesnar thing is madness. That he's coming back and he's fighting. It's absolute madness. And I just hope he gets what he gets when Daniel Cormier absolutely destroys him.
Do you think he's going to destroy him?
Well, I still say I can see how Brock can win this, like, just by the sheer size of him. Like, he's an insane unit. So, like, he could charge. Like, I don't think in Brock's time away from the cage, he's been working on, a 1-2 step off hook combination. Do you know what I mean? He's just going to bully his way through and hit them little I have to be careful how I'm doing that, yeah. His little, they're not little, like, they're, imagine they're hard shots.
The little hammer fists. Or the big hammer fists. And just
the lunchbox hammer fist on him. But,
that's going to be a gift now.
Like, it's 100%, and I'm looking at you and you're froze on your Skype to me, and I don't think you're froze on thing, but you're just froze like that. Yeah, that looks. I look like I'm stabbing somebody. But what was I going to say? Yeah, so, look, he's clearly cycling off something. We all know that, and if you don't think he is, you know what I mean? Have you ever seen Brock Lesnar before? You know what I mean? So
yeah, I'd like to get people's thoughts in the chat. Look at the picture. Let us know what you think.
That's a great one. NB. Sorry, I'm just looking at the chat. I'm doing your job. But NB, it's a great fight. I agree with that. I'd still love to see the Holloway rematch. I agree with that 100%. I'd love the Max Holloway rematch.
But Holloway, what's the crack with Holloway? Has there been any news now? Just so everybody knows, I've been off for a week and I haven't been looking at MMA news, so I had to get it all in today. So did I miss anything? Any update on Max Holloway? I haven't seen it. No,
the only thing I've seen on Max Holloway actually is pictures with his young lad. They're off on, I think they were in Disneyland or something. Yeah. But I don't think, like, he was saying he had to serve a medical suspension anyway. Like, I'd love, I've said this numerous times on the actual show when we're not in bedrooms. I've said it loads of times that I'd love to see Holloway and McGregor go again, because the two of them are they're completely different fighters than when they first fought. They've both improved on different aspects of their skill set. So I think it's a great fight. Like, I do, and over 5 rounds. We got 3 rounds last time, and both fighters were injured. Yeah. So main event, 5 rounds, Max Holloway, Conor McGregor. What a fight.
Yeah. There was another question in the chat earlier on, and let me see if I can find it, because it's in relation to something that I wanted to talk about. But basically, did you see that late stoppage? That horrible finish?
God.
Dan from Oregon. Talk about the horrible finish. What the fuck, ref? That Bruno Masami tweeted. Don't leave it in the hands of the ref, ? I don't ever want says, I guess that's the referee, near another combat sports ring cage again. Ban him for life. Yeah, this was insane, and I did set this up. Hopefully, again, I have the video here, but it could break the stream. Hopefully not. Worked the first time. Let's try it again. It looks alright. So if anyone hasn't seen, this is on MMAfighting.com, but it was actually tweeted, as Dan said, from Bruno Masami. So I'm going to play it through here, and we can just talk about it. But basically, it was like the latest stoppage I've seen in a long, long time. He had a choke in. The referee just stood there waiting for something to happen. I'm not sure what the referee was waiting for, because the guy was clearly out. But is that the worst stoppage you've ever seen?
Oh my God. someone commented, we put this up actually on, you put it up on our
Facebook
page, I think. Yeah, on Facebook. And I was watching it, and like when I seen it, I was like, oh my God, like what is this referee doing? Like this goes on for way too long. It's in like when he's in the position where he gets the right leg trapped in between his thighs and he's clinching, and you can see he has it tied up. He's even looking at the referee to go, yeah, this guy's done here. And the ref, he doesn't even touch the fighter. He just stands over him and then bends over, like leans over to look. Like, as
look
in,
at him.
Yeah, I'm zoomed in now. I've zoomed in now. Yeah, I know what I'm doing here. But the comment that I agreed with on Facebook, and I'll give another example. It was said earlier, I can't remember who said it in the chat earlier, talking about Jeremy Kennedy's finish at Brave the weekend. Jeremy Kennedy got into a position and he was throwing down elbows and really piecing up Pilo, and he stopped the fight. He knew Pilo was out, and he stopped and said to the referee, he's done, and stepped away from him, and then the ref stepped in and waved it off. In some way, like this choke is, Rob, I'm talking and this is still going on.
I know.
Like the referee, your man's twitching at this stage.
There's still like a few seconds left here.
So he's twitching in it. So for me, the referee, man, I hope that fighter's all right, by the way. He could have significant brain damage from no oxygen going to the brain. But I also think the fighter, when he became limp, now it's not his job, I understand that, but like if I was choking you for that long, I'd let go because I think I've just killed Rob. Do you know what I mean? And like it sounds straight and stern and to the point, but that's what it is. Like if I held anyone in a choke that long, you could kill them. But I do think that the fighter, the ref is there to protect the fighter, number one. That's a referee's job. Dan will always tell us that on their show. That it's the referee to have knowledge of positions, submissions, and when fighters, his position there, he's looking at the back of the fighter, right? So what can the back of the fighter tell him in that position? He never once checked a hand. He never once even checked a leg to see was the fighter active. He could have said to the fighter, signal, let me know you're okay. Anything. He didn't do any of that. He literally stood in and zoomed in by leaning over. Done nothing. It was an incompetent referee. He should never be allowed into a cage, ring, whatever. He shouldn't be allowed to attend a fucking event again. But the fighter as well, it was on that long that I think the fighter, you've seen almost, what's the right word I want to use here, is sympathy taps or stuff. Did you ever see the video where a fighter was picking a guy apart and he was hurting him? The referee wasn't stopping. And your man went, look, I tap him out here, because he knew he was beating the brakes off your man. And that fighter, in some way, that fighter could have released that choke and your man would have still been asleep on the floor.
I completely agree. Like I think he could have. The only thing is that the angle that we saw in that video, we don't know if the fighter was saying he's out, and the referee was saying he wasn't, or the referee was saying no, wait for the stoppage. You never know. That could have happened. I haven't seen any reports about it, but the way the camera was on, the referee was blocking the face, so we didn't see what that fighter was doing. He could have been looking up and saying, ref, this fighter is completely out, and the referee was saying no, he's still there, keep going. And what do you do in that situation? I don't know, but I think. Well,
my example is like if it's only because I was watching Brave the other night, like, so it's fresh on the mind. Like Jeremy Kennedy, he stood away from Pilo. He had finished him. He knew he had knocked him out, and then he stepped back, and he was like, "Yeah, okay, fight's over." And then the referee stepped in and went, "Oh shit, yeah, the fight is over." And you've seen that. Like I can't think of the fights off the top of my head, but I've seen fighters that they like. Look at Mark Hunt, the famous walkaway knockout.
We've seen it a lot. But
a lot of fighters. Dan Henderson wasn't that kind to Michael Bisping. No. But this is insane. Like a choke, he's clearly not being responsive, and then the man starts, it's almost like he's having a convulsion or a spasm from being in a choke, that he's not getting oxygen. Oh man, something has to come about it. Where was that show? I just seen it. I don't know where the show was.
1 second. Brazil.
And I tell you, Brazil. Whoever owns the gym that poor fucker's wearing the t-shirt for, you'd be getting on to whoever's sharing it going, I want the name of my gym blurred off the back of that, because who the fuck is going to send a fighter to that gym, or a young fighter to that gym? But atrocious, the worst I have ever seen, and I have seen fights in Russia. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So my God, like I can guess Steve Mazzagatti is sitting at home going, so you're telling me there's a chance? You know what I mean? He's sending the LCD down to Brazil to get work because that was atrocious. Absolutely. Like, can you imagine him refereeing a Paul Harris fight?
No knees left. I'm just looking at the report here, the write-up that was done by Guilherme Cruz, and apparently Barboza, who was the fighter with the choke, so the attacking fighter, got up and said, "I told you," straight away to the referee. So I'm guessing he said to the referee. So if he did say it to him and the referee said keep going, I suppose the fighter does have some kind of responsibility to say, well, I know he's gone, I'm going to let go. But man, that's disturbing. And I can see a few people in the chat said that they couldn't even finish the video. Raphael Shaver, I couldn't finish this video apart from the ref being criminally inept and the fighter having let go away sooner.
We've seen them before, Rob, where it was like landing big shots, and like I see it a lot, like, you know, the thing, too early of a stoppage, and this is a point we'll always make, is when a stoppage happens or whatever, and people go, "Oh, it's too early." Like, do we need to see the guy put unconscious? Do we need that knockout blow home? If he's not defending himself, do we need to see that finish? You've seen cases where, like, the likes of Dan Mulvahedi, who's obviously, we're big fans of Dan, he's part of the show and everything, but you see Dan will step in when a fighter is not intelligently defending himself. Deck Larkin at a show at the weekend, great referee, Deck up from Northern Ireland, former fighter, Decky the Bandit Dalton, Larkin, Decky the Bandit Larkin. He was in a fight, it was the Ian Gary Steve Costello fight, and Ian had the back of Costello. Again, amateur, so it's a little different, but had the back from me. It stretched him out, was landing a few shots. He'd get back up to his knees a little bit. Ian would stretch him out, land a good few shots. And then it got to the stage where Costello, he was just sort of turtling. Like, he was, in a sense, protecting himself. But just lying there doing that isn't protecting yourself. And Deck stepped in and waved it off. Now, Costello, again, the fighter in him was going, ref, you know what I mean? I wasn't doing it, I was protecting myself. He said, well, you'd shelled up and you weren't doing that in the better position. I allowed you 3 attempts to get out of the position. You couldn't do that. And you were stuck here, and he was landing shots on your free will. The fight was stopped. A great stoppage. And then you look at this and you go, Jesus fucking Christ, like, how in God's name? Like, somebody, like you said, people are finding it hard to watch the end of the fight or the end of the video. It's a 2-minute video, and I struggled to watch the end of it. It was disgusting. It was absolutely disgusting. We obviously had a case, unfortunately, here in Ireland of a fighter dying at a show. He passed away after the fact of the show, and the fight was ended. He'd gone backstage and took a convulsion backstage, was vomiting, and unfortunately went into a coma, and he never woke up again. Actually passed away, Joe Carvalho. And, you know, that wasn't, in my opinion, like, looking at it wasn't through poor refereeing or anything, you know, of that sort. But this referee, that fighter, worst case scenario, could have died there. Yeah. Like, he was being strangled. Obviously when we talk about MMA, we talk about rear naked chokes and submissions. But when it gets to that stage, he had submitted by passing out, being unconscious. That's, you know, a submission. It should have been a technical submission by the referee stepping in to wave it off. He'd gone asleep. He was out cold. The fight was over. It then went from a submission to a strangulation because he was continual to the choke as the fighter was fighter was unconscious and he was still choking. So the referee is there to protect the fighters. He failed to do that. He should never be allowed to step foot in an arena again.
Yeah. I just checked this on Reddit because I was just browsing through and I seen this here. Now, this is from an article by Globo, which I feel is a fairly reputable source, but apparently the referee was an unlicensed replacement, a last minute unlicensed replacement, and also unpaid. So again, I can't say I can confirm that this is 100% true, but according to Globo, according to this report, is that basically what happened was the guy who was supposed to ref the event was the president of the CNMMA, which translates to the National MMA Confederation in Brazil. Basically, they underpaid that commission of sorts, and they pulled out, and then they got some unlicensed guy who the promoters apparently said that they didn't want to use because they didn't know who he was, but they were told that this guy is you know, he's fine, he's credentialed, but man, that's kind of disturbing. Bringing in some unlicensed last minute replacement to referee a fight, and then clearly you could see he was inept.
To bring it all the way back to one of the very first questions asked in the chat earlier about Irish MMA and how good we're in a place of now, it's things like this that is important, that we have the rule sets and the standard that we have in Ireland to the IMF standards, because that shouldn't happen. Like that's almost like, you know, going to a football match and only having 10 players and going, here, come on and play. Do you know what I mean? Just because he's there doesn't mean he can get in the cage, and you know, it's absolutely insane.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about the card that's coming up on the weekend. Don't want to go through it too much in depth, but there's a couple of fights, especially in the main event, which is pretty intriguing. And maybe we can just give a few quick picks and a few thoughts on the card itself. So it's UFC Fight Night Gaethje versus Vic, or UFC Fight Night 135, and it goes down on Saturday. And of course, the main event is Justin Gaethje versus James Vic. James Vic and Justin Gaethje had a pretty entertaining back and forth at that UFC press conference. Probably one of the more entertaining parts of the press conference, aside from the Nate Diaz stuff, and then obviously the McGregor Khabib announcement. But what's your thoughts on this fight? I think we both are a bit guilty of underrating James Vic in the past.
100%.
And he's proved us wrong. And Justin Gaethje, we've I think we both have kind of picked right with Justin Gaethje most times. We know that he has a limit, but he's also an incredibly talented fighter. But what's your thoughts on the fight itself?
This fight for me is, can James Vic live with beating the shit out of Justin Gaethje for a lot of the fight, but him still coming forward at you? Justin Gaethje spoke after his last fight with Poirier that, you know, he might go back to his wrestling a little bit, where he's rocked and, you know, initiate takedowns and stuff like that as well, because he's such a high level decorated wrestler that, like, it's insane to, like, not use it. We have been incredibly guilty of underestimating James Vic. Like, I think he's on a 4 or 5 fight win streak. Vic, I know he had a really impressive victory. I think it's a 4 or 5 win streak. He had a really impressive victory over Joe Duffy, Irish Joseph Duffy. He absolutely looked incredible in that, where everybody thought Joseph Duffy would have the advantage in the stand-up, and James Vic absolutely lit Duffy up and finished him. I think it was in the second round he finished him, was it?
I think it was.
In the second.
Second round.
But the big thing about this is, it's 5-round fight as well. So because Gaethje is the test of your will, and that's the big test with, like you said. Don't get me wrong, he's an absolute animal, but you know, we're not gonna see Justin Gaethje coming in, you know, lying on his toes, working behind the jabs, switching stance from orthodox to southpaw, you know, staying light on his feet. He's gonna come in, he's gonna kick the fucking leg off you, and then he's going to try and land body shots and head shots and take the head off you. All the while doing that, you're landing shots on him, thinking, how is this zombie still standing? So I actually think this is going to be an incredibly fun fight. And I'm going to fall guilty, and I'm going to underestimate James Vic again. Wow. But it's not that I'm underestimating him. I just think this is a Justin Gaethje who potentially is fighting for his UFC life here.
Yeah, probably.
So, like, I don't know. I'd hate to lose Gaethje from the UFC. I mean, because he's such a fun fighter. But he's just a madman, and I don't know if Vic. Am I right? Would this be Vic's first ever 5-round fight?
I think you're right.
So if it's his first ever 5-round fight, like, Gaethje is going to keep coming at you. You got to check them leg kicks, and it's not like take 2 or 3 of them and then go, oh shit, I better start checking this. Straight off the gate, you're going to have to be checking leg kicks. Like, I can see if Vic stays long and fights the way he did against Duffy, I can see Duffy doing it, yeah. But I don't know. I just fancy Gaethje in this one to madness and wildness, if I'm honest. What about you?
Yeah, I'll get into that now. There's a couple of comments in the chat, and we'll go back to those that aren't related to this. But if you want to give your picks on this fight and any fights on this card, do it and give this video a like. But I'm kind of on the same line as you. Like, it's a weird matchup just because the UFC don't usually put someone on a loss streak versus a win streak. But I suppose there's a different impression of what they have of Justin Gaethje. He's not really, like, he's lost to some really good guys, but I still think they see some upside in him. I don't think he's gone if he loses this one, but he's close. You know, he's very entertaining. I'm not sure what they're paying him. They're paying him probably a good bit of money, but he's one of them guys who can headline a fight night even on a losing streak. But I'm kind of thinking the same thing as you. I think James Vick should win it, just based on their styles. If Justin Gaethje goes in and fights the way he fights, and James Vick can fight the way I think he could fight, he probably would win it, especially if he can fight at range. And you could see Justin Gaethje swinging and missing a whole lot against someone long like James Vick. But I don't know. I just think Justin Gaethje is going to do something. And again, we've been guilty of this so much. And I think in the Eddie Alvarez fight, I picked Justin Gaethje, and it kind of went the opposite way as well. So
can't remember who I picked in that one.
I think you picked Eddie Alvarez, did you?
Oh yeah, I did. Yeah, I remember now. Yeah, well done. Thanks for reminding me.
Very good. But yeah, I don't know. It's a great fight though. It's a really, really good fight, and it's the fight that James Vick was looking for. For the longest time, he hasn't got the fights he wanted. Like, he fought some really good guys, some tough guys like Joseph Duffy, Trinaldo, but they're not really the guys that are gonna push him into that top 5. But this would, if he gets a win.
But really sold himself brilliantly at the presser as well.
Did.
And it was like, oh my God, James Vick actually has a voice. You know what I mean? He really sold brilliantly. And that's not even from like us just being, you know, whatever here. It was almost all the media, even in attendance, were like, fucking hell, Vick is, you know what I mean?
I didn't know James Vick had that in him. Yeah,
Vick's got a good mouth on him. So
what's he call him, the Homer Simpson of MMA or something like that?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And what he said to me, he said after this, you know, go back to WSOF, didn't he? Yeah.
El Chapo won. Justin should take Vic down and use his wrestling. He should, but he won't, most likely.
He won't. Oh, he won't.
We'll get back to Raphael's question in 1 second. El Chapo, Vic, Sweet Chin Music, shit. Okay. If Justin loses, he should retire. El Chapo once said. Do you agree with that?
No, like he's ranked top 10 in the world.
It's taking a lot of damage.
He has taken a lot of damage, but no, I don't. Like, I think he just, if he changes as you know, the whole, if he takes him down, if he changes his fighting style, he could go on a long time. Like, what age is Gaethje? Is he? I can't think of the top of my head. If I only had information in front of me.
Yeah, if we only had... he's 29 years of age.
Some sort of search model.
He's 30 in November.
30. So he's a fellow Scorpion.
Okay.
Whatever that means. No, I don't think he should retire. I think he just needs to... Like, it's like... Again, to use his fighting analogy, if you look at the likes of Dan Henderson, for example, right? Dan Henderson, phenomenal wrestler, and then he started knocking people out. So he just kept knocking people out. It becomes something, and that's what Gaethje has done. He was knocking people out. He was finishing fights. He was... Do you know what I mean? Like, do you know what I'm trying to get at? So he's not needed his wrestling, really. Yeah. You know, he's been going in and he's winning these fights. Yes, absolutely insane fights. But he was winning all his fights. So like, he didn't really see the judges' scorecards all that often. So why change the game plan? Now, we had said when he signed with the UFC that it's different. He's going to be fighting different caliber guys here. Do you know what I mean? He's not going to be fighting lads that are going to do. They're going to have game plans that are going to come in against him and going to fight a certain way. Now, you look at the Michael Johnson fight, like, he was getting picked apart in that Johnson fight and then just, you know, pressed the zombie button and then just kicked in. The Eddie Alvarez fight, you know, it was an insane fight. He looked like Alvarez wasn't coming out for the fourth round. Alvarez could barely put his feet to the ground after that fight. So he was, like, technically you could say a minute away from beating Eddie Alvarez. Do you know what I mean? Poirier looked phenomenal against him. And that's what I mean, is that he was fighting a really smart fighter in Dustin Poirier. The way Dustin Poirier fought him, he fought him in a really smart way. So I expect Vic to do the same thing. But the point is, would Gaethje retire? No, I think we might see a different version of Gaethje on Saturday. Is it Saturday night or Sunday night? Saturday night. I think we'll see a different version of him here. And I don't mean he's going to completely change the game plan and come out like this, like, you know what I mean, and be looking for takedown. But I think we can see him mix it up and use his whole handbook of moves. But if he loses, no, too early to say retire. He's had so much success with one aspect of his fighting that now he's coming off 2 losses. I can see him changing that a little bit. Not entirely. We're still going to see a maniac, but
I don't think so either. Just because of the age, and you know, he does only have 2 losses, but you know, if he loses in a similar fashion to what he's lost in his last one, I think we'll be looking at it and kind of saying, geez, he has taken a lot of damage. Maybe not retire, but maybe give him somebody that's not an absolute killer next time. Because he has taken a ton of damage, not just in the fights he's lost, but the fights he's won as well. It's just the way he fights, and I don't think he's going to change that. He could, you know, he has that wrestling, but I just don't think he will. Hydro Bud 98. James is talking so much shit and said he might place a big bet on himself. Can you do that? Are you allowed to do that?
Norman Park got in serious trouble, didn't he? Remember, he fought in Dublin and he backed himself to win 2nd round TKO.
Yeah.
I also done the same bet.
Very good.
I was talking to Norman before, but no, you're not allowed. It's like footballers. Footballers aren't allowed back any sport, any football match. If you're a footballer, you're not allowed, you're not allowed back. So you're not allowed back yourself. But that's not to say you can't give your friend a few bob and go
tip.
Nip down to the El Bookies there and 3rd round stoppage.
Yeah.
Sure happens.
I'm just going to pull this card up and look at a few of the other fights on the card. We can get back to some questions. But Michael Johnson's actually on the card as well. He fights Andre Feely. What's your thoughts on Michael Johnson versus Andre Feely at featherweight?
Michael Johnson is on a bad run, man, isn't he? Now, I'm saying that you look at, like, he's Khabib, Justin and Darren Elkins. So, do you know what I mean?
Murder as well.
Exactly. And the thing, like, you talk about underestimating James Vick. I've never really thought incredibly high of Michael Johnson, and I've said it on a few occasions. I've never thought he was this. Like, for a while when he went on the run where he beat, remember he beat Edson Barboza and all, and at that stage I think he was on like a 3 or 4 fight win streak, and everyone's like, oh yeah, he's having a good time here. But then he lost to Dariush, Nate Diaz, and he sort of he went on a bit of a slide. He beat Poirier and then he ran into the thing. So I think he has little purple patches now. If you look at them purple patches, you could argue that he's due a win now because he has 3 losses. But this potentially could be a good matchup, I think, for him.
I agree.
He's gonna find a good opponent here in Feely. But we're talking about talking about Gaethje getting his marching orders. He's Johnson on a 3-fight losing streak. Do you know what I mean? He needs this win.
Yeah.
And then you look at Feely. Yeah. Feely has 2 wins over the GOAT Artem Lobov and then Dennis Bermudez. So
yeah, it's actually insane when you look through Michael Johnson's record and look who he has fought over the last few fights. Like going back just like 8 fights or so. You had Melvin Gallard, obviously that's near the end of his UFC tenure, but then you had Edson Barboza, Dariush, Nate Diaz, Dustin Poirier, Khabib, Gaethje, Elkins, and now Feely. I think Feely is probably the worst, and this is not taking anything away from Feely, but it's probably the worst opponent he's had. And I do think it's kind of a good style matchup for him. Although I did think Dennis Bermudez would have done well against Feely, and Feely made some good improvements. But I think this is a good matchup for Michael Johnson. I think he might break that losing streak. But yeah, it's a good fight. But
it's a good match for Feely as well, though, because it's sort of a name for Feely as well because of the MMA mats of who Michael Johnson has been in there with. This is a good matchup for Feely as well. I thought the same. I thought Dennis Bermudez. I've been honest with you. I thought Dennis Bermudez was going to run through Feely.
Yeah, that was a good matchup for him.
Yeah, not to be. So he's done well. So again, this is another good step for him, getting somebody like Michael Johnson. Like, so yeah, I think it's a good fight. But I agree. I can see Johnson here. I can see Johnson getting the win. He's just been in there with better opponents. So he's experienced. But you could argue little chinny Michael Johnson of late. And he's technical, but if you can drag him out of that technique, he actually gets quite slow.
Gets quite wild.
Overthrows on his shots.
The lone female fight on the main card, Angela Hill, Courtney Casey. Pretty decent fight. Could be a good scrap. both are similar type fighters. They're both strikers, but I suppose Courtney would be a little bit more of a brawler, whereas Angela Hill is quite technical. I probably lean towards Angela Hill. I think she's on a win streak, whereas I think Casey has 2 losses, but she has some pretty entertaining fights. I remember that one against Felice Herrig, which was really entertaining, and it was a close one, but I'd probably lean myself towards Angela Hill in this one.
Yeah, I would be the same on Angela Hill, but if you look at her past 4 fights, it goes loss, win, win, so next is loss. You know, these things are, you know, they're stats that, you know, you can't ignore, you know. Ignore them, yeah. And will she come out? She always comes out like dressed as something mad, doesn't she? She was Black Panther,
Black Panther at one point, yeah. Big geek, I think, big comic book nerd, which I'm a fan of. Jake Ellenberger, Brian Barberina. Jake Ellenberger coming near the end of his career. Barberina upset the apple cart, as they say, with Sage Norco. But what's your thoughts on this one?
Man, Jake Ellenberger, huh? He was once seen as, you know, the guy, wasn't he? He was going to be the guy,
and contender.
Then, but man, he has fallen on. But then again, when you look at his last 3 losses, they're against Masvidal, Mike Perry, and Ben Saunders. Yeah. But he really has fallen, hasn't he, from grace, if you like. Bad need of a win. This is almost this card. You know, maybe UFC used to call their cards like domination or whatever. This should be UFC Fight Night 135 in need of a win, because like it seems like a lot of the people on it are, you know, they really need a win. And Ellenberger definitely falls under that. Has a lot of power. Like Ellenberger sets up his shots. When he sets up his power shots, man, he can land, and I reckon he can still crack with the best. The problem is he can throw the crack. He looks like he can't really take the crack anymore. That sounds weird, but you know what I mean.
That's a brilliant line. That is a brilliant line. Yeah, I think so too. I'd probably lean towards Barberina, who's, again, he's one of them fighters who kind of has a win-loss almost. But his losses are against good guys like Leon Edwards and Colby Covington. You know, you can't really put your nose up against that. So I'll go with Barberina. I think he's a really tough guy. I don't think Ellenberger will be able to put him out there. And I think just at this stage of his career, he's on a bit of a decline, Ellenberger. But
I think, and I don't mean disrespectfully to Ellenberger, but I think he just has a little thing under here that says best before 2016.
Oh, Jesus, yeah.
Because I think the expiry date is gone.
Yeah. John Moraga against Davidson Figueiredo. Moraga, he's one of them guys who, at flyweight, he probably could be close to a title fight. He got a title fight in the past, maybe a bit too early for him at the time, but now the flyweight division looks a little bit different. I think a win here really puts him in contention for a title fight.
But yeah, he's coming up, you know, undefeated fighter he's taking on here. But again, he's fought the better opponents looking down the career, you can say that. Moraga's one. Do you know what Moraga is to me? He's the guy that always messes up my accumulator. Yeah. Be it if I pick him or I pick against him.
Yeah.
Like, I thought Wilson Hayes would have beat him the last time out. I remember I picked Wilson Hayes, and he messed up my accumulator. It seemed
like a bad matchup for him, didn't it, Wilson Hayes? Like Wilson Hayes seemed like the guy who can get him to the floor where he has problems and just outposition him. Like, Moraga doesn't have poor grappling, not in the slightest, but if you can get him on his back and you can flatten him out and you can get positions on him, he has problems there. And I thought Wilson Hayes could have done that. And Figueiredo may be able to do that as well, but I think he's on a good run. I think he's made some big improvements, Moraga, so I'd go with Moraga in this one.
I won't disagree with you. Do you want to handpick a thing and jump into questions there?
Is there any more fights in the card that interest you? Like, there's a few, but...
No, the rest of it is absolutely horrendous. Now, Mickey Gall, I'd like to see Mickey Gall do well again. You know what I mean? Interesting to see with him. You know, he's coming in. There's 2 fights I want to sort of grab at quickly, so you'll probably give out to me. Like Mickey Gall, he's learning his trade in the UFC. Do you know what I mean? He's like a Big Brother winner, essentially. Do you know what I mean? He won the tickets to get to the UFC through Dana White looking for a fight. And, you know, I think, you know, out of some of the fighters that have you know, come through that. Like, you've got guys who are more experienced in like that fight on Dana White's Contender. Do you know what I mean? They have more experience. So if you look at like his second ever pro fight was in the UFC. Yes, it was against a photographer in Mike Jackson, and yes, his third fight was against CM Punk. But Yeah, like then he beat, Sage Northcutt as well. But like Mickey Gall, he's learning his trade in front of the world. So the old good story in me would like to see Mickey Gall get a win here. And again, he's the type of young fighter that he goes away and he'll show big improvements, and any improvements like coming off the loss to Randy Brown, we'll see what he's done in between fights. So I look forward to see Mickey Gall. Just briefly, and obviously a little bit of towards our neck of the woods, I like to see Calderwood do well as well.
Yeah, always been a fan.
Yeah, so Joanne Calderwood, who just will not reply to us on Twitter to come on the show, I'd like to see her do well as well. And again, just hometown, she seems like a good character. She's currently on 2-fight loss streak. So when you look at it, like she was doing so well. With getting to where she is against 2 losses, I always like seeing the comeback story, see how they do. But I'd like to see winners.
It seems a lot of people are interested in Yuri Alcantara versus Corey Sandhagen. I don't know a whole lot about Sandhagen, to be honest. I haven't really looked into him too much. I've seen his fight against Austin Arnett, which was on the Fox card a few months back, wherever it was. But I don't know too much about him. So if people want to give us some comments about who he is and why we should be interested in him, that'd be brilliant. But Yuri Alcantara, that's not an easy fight. That's a tough fight against a veteran who's been around the UFC for a long time and who's been not really a contender at that division, but he's beat some really good guys. He has Pickett on his record. He has Joe Soto on his record. So it's not an easy task here for the 8-1 fighter.
Yeah, Lurie, that's the fight that when I had Brad Pickett on, wasn't it? I was saying, man, that first round. Yeah. And it's weird because Pickett. No, that's not. I'm thinking of. You're thinking of. Yeah, the Matt flying knee. Yeah,
the guy that Garbrandt beat.
Yeah. Yeah. So no, never mind what I was saying. We'll edit that out when we re-upload this video.
Yeah, sure, definitely not. Hyderabad 98. Kraus Alves is good. Alves is the biggest faker ever, though. Just go rewatch Juban versus Alves. He was playing up Juban's fouls way too much. Can't really remember that, but I will go back and look at it. Alan Juban, what a man.
Gorgeous.
Gall is on the prelims. That's a joke. I don't know. He's still really young in his career. Yeah, I don't have a huge problem with that one.
Thomas Almeida, well done.
Thomas Almeida, that's the one.
That's what it was, yeah.
Hyderabad 98. I think Feely wins the fight. I don't think this weight cut is good for Johnson at all. On Anatomy of a Fighter, he looked sucked up. I think he's more skilled, but I don't feel like it's. I don't feel good about this one. It's a good point. I don't think 45 is his best weight class, and he's definitely looked pretty poor sometimes at that weight. So yeah. Any comment on that?
No. I was looking at something here because something's stopping on me, so I was trying to fix that. So excuse me, I was kind of ignoring you.
Brilliant. Is there any other fights on the card that interest you?
I'm only looking deeper down the card. I only look at the main ones now, but no, the two I called out, John Calderwood and Mickey Gall, ones I'd like to see.
It seems like Yoel Romero was supposed to fight Paulo Costa at UFC 230. Have you seen this?
Yeah, I seen a little rumour of it, but Yoel's injured, isn't he?
Yeah, so apparently the fight was announced, or was at least the UFC announced something to do with the fight, but Yoel Romero's actually injured, and he won't make it apparently to that fight, which is kind of unfortunate because that's a really interesting fight. I'm not sure if you think that maybe Yoel Romero right now for Paulo Costa was a bit too soon, but a little bit disappointing that maybe that fight's not happening.
Man, USADA would have just been all over them too for the build-up, though, wouldn't they? The travel expenses that would have been going into that USADA office would be unbelievable. Not saying that, though. I'm just saying, they test the fighters, rightly so. Is it too early? Is he? I don't know. Sometimes to beat a man, you got to beat the man. So he's looked ultra impressive. So why not? Like, who else are you going to give you all to? You know what I mean? At the current state, like you've Luke Rockhold, Chris Weidman. Apparently, that's going to be announced, or maybe it has been announced. I'm not too sure, but I know that was in the line. So realistically, looking at Yoel, who else really is there? Do you know what I mean? So why not give it to the guy who's the up and comer, and looks like there's a big hype train behind. Yeah, maybe they don't want to derail the new hype train from Brazil, but fuck it, that's a good fight.
Yeah. Dan from Oregon said Corey Sandhagen is dropping the bantamweight. Dude was phenomenal in his first fight. Yeah, I remember that first fight. He looked great. I just assumed that people knew him a bit more from previous fights, and that's why he had a big reputation. Maybe he does, but I remember that first fight, and yeah, that was impressive. I seen something there a minute ago, and I wanted to talk about Rafael Schaefer. Let's talk about the women's fights on 228. Really, I'm interested in every single woman fight on the card, but here I am. Yeah, UFC 228 has some really, really good female fights.
That's
co-main event.
Woodley and Till, isn't it?
Yeah, Woodley and Till. So the co-main event is Nico Montano versus Valentina Shevchenko for the title.
That's a butchering, I think.
We can get into that. Jessica Andrade against Karolina Kowalkiewicz, that's a phenomenal fight. I think that's a brilliant fight. And Tatiana Suarez fights Carla Esparza in the other strawweight fight on the card. Might as well start with that top one. I assume you think Shevchenko beats Montano fairly handily?
Butchering.
Wow.
Depends on the weight cut, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's Valentina's first time gone down, is it?
Yeah, but I think she's fine.
Yeah, she looked like, you already look at her, she looks in like incredible shape, like at the presser and all that. But for me, that's the absolute butchering.
It's crazy. Is Montano the most, I suppose, not undeserving, because that's probably wrong, but like, is she, every fight she goes into now, unless obviously you can't really say it, because if she beats Valentina, then she's going to be probably favourite. But I mean, going into this one, she's probably going to be one of the bigger underdogs in UFC history for a champ, I'm assuming.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say she's the most undeserving champion, and I would have said, no, Ronda Rousey was.
Hey.
She was given a belt.
Yeah, true, but she was the Strikeforce champ.
Have a belt.
It's like Jose Aldo, hey?
There you go. Bit of difference. You all laugh at me now when this happens and it's the other way around. I just see no. I'm going. Who was that I done that for back in the day?
It was Gegard Mousasi.
Gegard Mousasi. I'm like, there's no point in breaking this fight down. Shevchenko absolutely destroys her in any facet she wants to.
Yeah. There's
my breakdown for this fight. I just don't see any way Shevchenko doesn't win this fight and win it grotesque and violence.
Do you people in the chat agree with Noel? Do you think it's going to be a complete blowout for Valentina? I can see a few people have commented on it.
Do.
Empowers communication. Montano, I assume they wrote Montano word, will die slow. That is dark.
It's very dark.
Valentina didn't cuff for 135. She'll be fine. And yes, I agree. This one is most likely going to be a butcher for her. She didn't cut to 135. I think 125 is her natural weight class. I think that's what she fought pretty much in kickboxing, or at least close enough to that. I'm not sure what the weight class structure is, but yeah, I agree that's probably going to be Valentina winning this fairly easy. But you never know. You never know.
No, kills her. Absolutely. And it absolutely destroys her in every facet. It's like, It's
like she's just holding the belt, isn't it?
It's going to be one of them where you're going, and I'll ref, stop it. Fucking stop it. And they're only touching gloves into the centre of the cage. She'll probably rock her.
Stop. She's already dead. It's the Simpsons meme.
Yeah.
What about Jessica Andrade and Karolina Kowalkiewicz? This is an excellent fight, I think.
And again, this is to get a crack at Rose.
Yeah, pretty much.
100%. I think when you look at Karolina, when you look at her when she fought Claudia, you can certainly see Andrade adapting that style to beat her as well. I think that's her best way. I think if she stands and strikes, she's going to allow Karolina her best opportunities in the fight. But like a killer as well. This is one of these fights that both of them have the ability to finish each other. But now, both of them have the, win. I don't see a stoppage in the fight, but both of them have their way of winning the fight that opposes the other. But they could both engage in that. Like Karolina, I think, is a little underestimated on the ground as well, how she can get back to her feet.
Yeah.
the sweeps that she can do and stuff like that as well. She has good submissions as well. Like it was Calderwood that she choked out, wasn't it? Guillotine choke, was it? Guillotine?
I think it was, yeah.
Guillotine. It was guillotine. So she has submissions in there. She's plenty. Like she does have rear naked chokes in there as well, but she's also lost to submissions as well. That's where I think Andrade, Jessica Andrade can get her if she wins the fight by stoppage. I can see Andrade getting it done with sub. Yeah,
it's a fight where they both fight similarly in some ways. Like I mean, they're both really pressure fighters, but they do it differently. You know, Andrade is that kind of coming forward, trying to get takedowns, landing big shots. Whereas Carolina is like tries to get to the clinch, tries to land shots from there. Could be a problem because if she puts herself in the clinch against Andrade, we've seen Andrade get those big takedowns, and she works well in the clinch as well. But Carolina, I'm guessing, will have a fairly big height advantage. I'll check that in a minute. But if that's the case, she could do some great work from the clinch as well. And she is strong. I think she's underrated in that case. Like Andrade is clearly going to be the stronger of the two, I'd say. But like Carolina is like deceivingly strong.
Yeah, she's got that Muay Thai strength.
Yeah, and she uses that leverage really, really well. Like she hurt Rose in the clinch really badly. She was piecing her up in the clinch.
And that's what's interesting about if Carolina does win it, she has to fight Rose and it's a rematch. Do you know what I mean? That's that side of it. So it's how does Rose that, you know? Yeah.
Well, Carolina's according to this, Carolina is 5'3" and Andrade is 5'2". I'm pretty sure that's wrong. I'm pretty sure Carolina is a little bit more taller than Andrade, but you know that could be true. But she does have a few inches reach as well on her. But I think it's a great fight. I probably lean towards Andrade, but you know Carolina has surprised me a lot.
Yeah. I'm not really going to disagree with that. I'd like Carolina to win to see the rematch as well. Though, with us.
I think it's a very intriguing one. It's mad because Carolina won that fight, so in theory that's a tough fight for Rose, and I do think it is stylistically, but also Andrade seems like a really tough fight for Rose as well. So she has two killers, you know, coming up to fight her.
That's what happens when you're a champion. Killer row.
Dan from Oregon said Andrade via third round or 3-round decision. 5 rounds would have made sense for this fight. If possible, it would have been good.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? With lower down the cards, I'd say that'll change too as well, depending on if it's seen as like a number one contender fight and it's not a main event that make them 5 rounds. That you could argue sometimes why they have interim titles as well, so they can call it a title fight and have them 5 rounds. Yeah.
Tatiana Suarez versus Carla Esparza is the other fight on the card. I know a lot of people are really high on Suarez. Jason from MMA on Point, who does be on the show on the live chats, is pretty high on her. But Carla Esparza, I think, surprised a lot of people in our last fight. Not our last one, but the Cynthia Calvillo one, and I suppose the last one as well. She probably, I think she probably won that Cadella fight. Don't know about you.
Yeah. I thought it was quite close. This was one of the fights. I didn't see that fight, the Claudia Cadella and Esparza fight.
It was a close decision. I thought probably Esparza won the fight, but since that loss to Joanna, she's made some big improvements. She really has.
I keep going back to quality of opponent and stuff like that. But you can argue that, you know, Suarez hasn't fought the quality yet that Esparza has. So, but look, you can only beat who's in front of you, and she's done that in every occasion. So, do you know what I mean? When you look at the array as well, you know, she's obviously an absolute submission queen, rear naked chokes, guillotines, dash chokes. Do you know what I mean? She's got a lot of submissions in the toolbox there as well. So, like, Esparza, when you looked at her before, she was very one-dimensional. Like when she was the champion and she came in against Joanna, she was absolutely tore up by Joanna, just constantly looking for the takedown. And the thing with, if she's constantly looking for the takedown, she's bringing Suarez to, in some ways, where Suarez wants the fight to be. So that's always one when, you know, you have a great wrestler against a great submission specialist as well, that you know, yes, I'm getting the takedown, but I'm actually swimming in your swimming pool now. You know what I mean? So it's a weird one.
Yeah. If you have any more questions, we're gonna probably go for another 5-10 minutes, and then we're gonna leave. So if there's any more questions, get them in. But yeah, the rest of the card of of 228 is pretty good. Obviously, we're not going to go through it because it's not coming up just yet. But those 3 fights, probably the best 3 women's fights, I suppose, in succession that we've probably had in the UFC, I guess.
The Brazilian Butch will out-wrestle. What? I'm just looking at the comments.
What did he say?
The Brazilian Butch will out-wrestle Caracina. Great stuff. Henry Ford, well done, sir. So what's next? What's next on your hit list?
There's one thing I wanted to do before we left. We used to do it on the show a little bit, called reading Reddit. We used to just go through Reddit and see what was there and see if there's anything interesting to talk about. I have it set up here. Hopefully we will be able to see it. And there it is. Hopefully you can see that as well now at some point, although we're on a bit of a delay. But there's usually some decent things on Reddit that you can talk about, some news that pops up. Apparently Shoeface wants Paulo Costa in New York. Seems like that's an interesting fight. That could be good. That's probably more of a
realistic
matchup than the Yoel Romero fight, I think.
Probably makes more sense at the time, but if like obviously Viol's not ready, 100%. Why not?
Yeah. What else we have here?
Just a question flying in there. Yo, check the first comment out on that thread. What I was saying. So sorry, what's the one here? Why does the UFC comments I'm in here, Rob? Sorry, why does the UFC have 30% of its roster in the 2 divisions, 55 and 170? I just think there's more of a pool of fighters in around them weight classes. Like I don't think it's I don't like here in Ireland we're a much smaller pool to look at, so sometimes it's easy to test the market in a smaller, do you know what I mean, when you have a smaller testing numbers, and it's certainly any fights I call tend to be anywhere from feather, light and 170. Very rarely you get heavier than middleweight here in Ireland, and that'll attest to the likes of Will Fleury and stuff like that. We'll speak about how hard it is to get a match, or well, not now, he fights in Bellator, but how hard it is to get a match being a bigger guy, and he's at 205, so it's not like he's a heavyweight, you know. And Will's at 185 as well, like so as well. So I was trying to think his last fight. I know he's fought at 205, but I just think it's the fact, like it's the, if you were to get in all the fighters, it's the average size would fall in that market, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I was reading the first comment in that, so I was doing what you done earlier on, kind of zoned out.
Yeah. That's my science. It's just because there aren't that many people that are bigger.
Yeah, pretty much though. It's like, I just think that's the ideal kind of size for a fighter. Not ideal, but I think that's where most fighters fall into. Like with heavyweights, I think the reason why we don't see as many heavyweights in MMA, like of quality and even of, I suppose, quantity, is because most people that size, they're going to go to a different sport. They're not going to go to cage fighting, if you want to say it that way. So they're going to go to like football or something. They're going to get scholarships to play football or basketball. Yeah. So I just think that you have a bigger pool in that kind of size range. Just what most normal people are, except for you, Noel. You're 6'4" or something, isn't it?
6'4", 126 pounds. Then I put my left leg on the weighing scale.
Yeah.
Yeah, so again, Dan from Oregon is just saying, the backlog of people who deserve title shots is crazy. 55 and 70. Does UFC axe 170 and establish 165, 175? Dana, who was very honest person and always tells the truth, he has said that they're not interested. UFC aren't going to bring in new weight classes. He also said women wouldn't fight in MMA. So
do you have any
he also said he's done with Conor McGregor. These are just examples.
Yeah, it's a weird one as well. Like with that, like the whole not bringing in more weight class. I don't get it. Like they can throw interim titles, like about 6 interim titles, and in between the weight classes. If they want to have more championship fights, just have an extra weight class in there. It makes probably more sense.
Yeah, but it's the thing of weight classes is what will happen is if you add the more weight classes, you're going to get guys who will jump down the weight class to, do you know what I mean? to then fight in you know what I mean? You're going to get people cutting and people. So it's not going to necessarily mean somebody who fights at 170 is going to go, oh, well, look, I won't cut as much.
No,
and fight
yeah,
of
course.
Going to cut to 165. So it's a bit of a weird one. A
few more comments and then we're going to leave. So we'll go through these ones, and if you have any last minute ones, we'll try go quick fire through them, and then we'll leg it, because Noel has a little child as well, needs to look after. Can't be doing this all day.
She's currently starving now while I'm doing this.
Yeah. Let me see. What do y'all think about the possible future Till versus Adesanya fight? Man,
that'd be a fun. That would be a very fun fight. Yeah. It's definitely in the likelihood, like Adesanya at 185. Till ain't going to stay. Till isn't going to stay at 170 forever. No. He's going to go. So if he wins the belt, I can see him defending it and then move up. If he loses, he'll probably go up. But yeah, that's a fun fight. And again, it's because as much as like Adesanya is like crazy techniques and crazy throws, but you know, man, Till walking you down would be fun. Oh man, that'd be a fun fight. That'd be a fun fight. I'd love to watch Brendan Doran's breakdown of that fight. That'd be fucking awesome.
Fun. Yeah, that's a fight that I think is like almost like a dream fight at this point. Will it happen because of obviously Darren Till? I don't, like he says it himself, I don't think he's going to be at that weight class a whole lot longer, as you said. So I don't know if Adesanya is going to move up. He doesn't seem like the biggest guy. Like he's really lanky and tall and that kind of like almost John Jones like. So maybe in a few years he's going to put on a lot of mass and he'll have to move up. But he seems pretty fine at that weight class. But man, that is just one of the funnest fights you can really think of at this point.
Dan from Oregon is hitting home runs with questions. 4-man tournament, Adesanya, Till, MVP, Gastelum. Who wins?
Ooh. Let me see.
And really, I think Gastelum is the dark horse in that.
Yeah, I agree. Like I think right now you'd say Till, maybe.
Man, Gastelum's a different ballgame. You know, yeah. I think obviously people are going to look at, you know, the crazy styles and attacks of Adesanya and MVP, but man, Gastelum is just, you know, he's
class.
I think, yeah, and I think people underestimate him because, you know, how he looks. You know what I mean? He doesn't look like chiseled, or he doesn't. You know what I mean? So people have started to look past that, but like his skills are unbelievable. He's got power for days. Like, do you know what I mean? So.
He's quick as well. He has really fast hands.
Funny, I'm going to go an outsider there. I think right now, if that happens, I think Gastelum wins that tournament.
Possibly. Yeah, possibly. Yeah, and even...
but how much fun would an MVP Adesanya fight be?
Oh, man.
Fucking hell.
Fun. And we have
it'd be like you just need somebody going, hello, Mr. What is it in Matrix?
Mr. Anderson.
Hello, Mr. Anderson. You need him on commentary. Just wow, insane. But yeah, I honestly, for me, Gastelum there. If I was a betting man, I am, and I was looking at that right now, I would put my €1 on Kelvin Gastelum.
€1. So confident.
Within my financial means, Robert.
Yeah, exactly. Responsible. El Chapo won. We kind of talked about this, but Conor Khabib, who wins and why?
Both can win it. They're in their dynamic. So I think if it stays standing, I think Conor can knock him out. If Khabib can get on the inside and get his takedowns the way he does, Khabib could control Conor. I was watching a great video there on YouTube because I'm a loser like that I when I'm bored I look at these sort of breakdown videos, and somebody put a video together of the likes of Henry Gracie and lads being impressed by Conor's ground game, and it was what Conor done against Eddie Alvarez. Admittedly, Conor was in top, but Eddie rolled for a knee bar, and the way Conor stopped it and just grabbed his ankle and put it up against the cage to stop Alvarez from getting sweeps or trying to work his way back up. And like, I do think Conor's ground game is underestimated, but to the levels of Khabib Nurmagomedov on top of you with wrist control, I can see Khabib beating Conor that way. But I can easily, I'm not saying it's going to be like Jose Aldo, but I can see Conor putting them out like that. Think sort of Poirier finish, or even think Marcus Brimage, that slippery, dirty hooer of an uppercut.
Yeah.
that's how I could see Conor. So in a weird way, I've been excited about the fight, but I haven't really looked at it and sort of looked at it from the who do I think is going to win, let me break this fight down sort of way.
I'm the exact same, yeah. I haven't done that yet. I need to. But yeah, I agree with that. But I also agree with like, with the Faraz thing of, it could go either way in their kind of way. But I think it's one of them fights in modern MMA which you don't really get anymore, where I don't see either guy winning in the other person's strength. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like that can happen. Yeah. Like that can happen in MMA now. Like you can have a grappler who beats a striker. It happens all the time. But I just don't see that happening in this one. I think if someone's going to win, it's going to be in their domain, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
NB, Kelvin is the gamer and he has the intangibles, but he's slightly simplistic. Interesting. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Unless there's anything else you want to say, Noel, I think we can head off, and I'll probably do another live chat later in the week, maybe with Jason if he wants to join me. But
cool.
Yeah.
And we should be back in studio next week. So I know lads, a lot of lads enjoy the live chats here, and if you just listen to the live chats, you've probably never seen me or heard me before. But we do a show in studio each week that comes out on a Tuesday. Just two of us currently, Rob. We're actually both of us on holidays at the moment.
Yeah.
So we're enjoying family time and a little bit of waiting in the studio. So that's why you're looking in my son's bedroom. So that's why we do the live chat. But Rob, it was good to be back on live chat. I haven't done a live chat in months.
Yeah. So until another few months before we do this again. Nice.
Yeah. Tell you how long ago it was. I think the last time I done a live chat, Man United were actually on the TV and beating Everton, and now we can't even beat fucking Brighton.
Jesus,
so
it's tragic, man.
You know, hard times.
But if you can, before you leave this chat, give this a like and give it a share, and subscribe to us on the YouTube channel as well. And we're also on audio. If you want to listen to us going to work or wherever you do, go in the gym, why not? Go check us out on like Spotify or Podbean or iTunes. What else is there? Whatever. Stitcher. Everywhere. But nice one, all, and I'll probably see it on Monday, hopefully, to record, and the show will be out on Tuesday.
Raphael has one question. How do I pronounce my last name? It's easy. O'Keefe. So think Keefe O'Keefe. Noel O'Keefe. Easy enough.
Yeah. I thought that was easy. Mine seems to be harder.
A lot of people would call me, I know any sort of American person would refer to me as Keith, like as in Keith.
Oh.
But it's Keefe.
Oh.
So
very good. Mine's Palin, not Palin.
Robert Palin.
Don't confuse it with Palin. But we'll leave it there. Cheers.
Pleasure talking. See you.